Well, citrus farmers say they are being squeezed dry by the European Union. It's put regulations in place to prevent the import of an invasive moth species. Europe will no longer accept fruit that have not been cold treated and kept at a -2 degrees for 25 days. Citrus Growers Association says this is near impossible due to power cuts. And it's written to Trade and Industry Minister Ibrahim Patel, begging him to intervene. So let's find out more now from the association's Justin Chadwick joining me this morning. Justin, thank you so much for your time. I mean, it seems that the problems and issues brought forward by load shedding, by blackouts, seem to be, getting worse and worse. Just when you think you're trying to deal with something, whether it's, diesel and generators and obviously supplying diesel. On the other hand, these regulations by the EU. Take me through what they're saying to you as citrus growers out in South Africa.
Yeah, good morning. So I think just the background is that we do have a pest called the false codling moth, and last year the EU introduced these new measures which require us to cool the fruit down to a certain temperature before we load the fruit onto the vessel. And obviously that's a big issue for us now with the rolling blackouts and the energy crisis, and that many of the cold stores will battle to be able to get the fruit down to the required temperature. Obviously, we're very appreciative of the state of disaster around energy, which exempts the ports from load shedding. But many of these cold stores are outside the port precinct, and as such, will still have problems. And hence, we've written to the minister to take us to the next step in terms of the WTO dispute, which he initiated last year.
And how urgent is this intervention, Justin?
Yeah, so it's very urgent in that the new requirements came into being on the 1st of January. So in effect, they already are in effect. And our season starts towards the middle of next month. Fortunately, these regulations only impact on oranges, and they're a later fruit. We're already exporting some lemons and some very early mandarins, but definitely, if we don't find some resolution and some movement from the EU side before our season starts in terms of orange exports, which, as I say, is probably towards the middle of April, May, then we're going to have some real problems.
Yeah, because I understand to comply, growers will have to use costly measures here, extremely costly, specialized container equipment, and in a short supply.
Yeah, that is the problem. So firstly, we have to cool the temperature, the pulp of the fruit down to a certain temperature. And we simply don't have the cold stores capability to do what's called forced air cooling to get all of that fruit down to the right temperature. The EU is our biggest market and has been for years. And if we lose 15 to 25% of our oranges into that market, then that is a big issue for us.
Yeah. So if we quantify, Justin, how much, just in terms of investment in cold storage technology and capacity, are we talking here?
So we got the Bureau of Food and Agriculture Policy to assist us in doing some calculations. They worked out that to put in the cooling equipment and infrastructure would cost in the order of 1.4 billion. But it's not only the cost, it's the time involved as well. So, you're not just going to erect that overnight. So it's going to take a long time if we were to try and get that infrastructure in place.
So just for clarity's sake, and I know you mentioned writing to Minister Ibrahim Patel to intervene. What does that intervention look like? What do you require from the minister?
Yeah, we're very appreciative of all the support from government, from not only Minister of Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, but also Minister of Agriculture and International Relations. They've all been assisting us in this process. Minister Patel did file with the WTO a dispute, and the first step in that is consultations, which the government has been undertaking since last year. But it seems that the EU is not in any way accepting that their measures are unjustified and unnecessary. And so we've asked the minister to move from the consultation phase to what's called the panel phase. In other words, we'll get an independent group of experts to decide whether the EU are correct in their imposing of these new regulations or not.
All right, we'll leave it there. And I appreciate you speaking to us about this. Citrus Growers Association CEO Justin Chadwick, thank you so much for your time this morning.